Chapter 2, Part 4 of a Contribution to the Critique of Political Economy by Karl Marx, translated by Nahum Isaac Stone. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. 4. The Precious Metals. The process of capitalist production, first of all, takes hold of the metallic circulation as of a ready transmitted organ, which, though undergoing a gradual transformation, always retains its fundamental structure. The question as to why gold and silver, and not other commodities, serve as money material falls outside the limits of the capitalist system. We shall therefore confine ourselves to summing up the most essential points. Since universal labor time admits of quantitative differences only, the object which is to serve as its specific incarnation must be capable of representing purely quantitative differences. That is, it must be homogeneous and uniform in quality throughout. That is the first condition a commodity must satisfy to perform the function of a measure of value. If commodities were estimated in oxen, hides, grain, etc., they would really have to be estimated in an ideal average ox or average hide, since there are qualitative differences between an ox and an ox, grain and grain, hide and hide. On the contrary, gold and silver, as elementary substances, are always the same, and equal quantities of them represent therefore values of equal magnitude. Footnote: Galliani, page 130. Metals have this singular property, that everything in them is reduced to one consideration, viz., that of quantity, since they are not endowed by nature with any differences in quality, either in their internal structure or in their external form and shape. End of footnote. The other condition which a commodity that is to serve as a universal equivalent must satisfy, and which follows directly from its function of representing purely quantitative differences, is that it must be capable of being divided and reunited at will, so that money of account may be represented materially as well. Gold and silver possess these properties to a superior degree. As mediums of circulation, gold and silver have this advantage over other commodities, that their high specific gravity, which condenses much weight in little space, corresponds to their economic specific gravity, which condenses relatively much labor time, that is, a great quantity of exchange value in a small volume. This ensures facility of transport, of transition from hand to hand, and from one country to another, the ability to appear as rapidly as to disappear, in short, that material mobility which constitutes the sine qua non of the commodity that is to serve as the perpetuum mobile of the process of circulation. The high specific value of the precious metals, their durability, comparative indestructibility, insusceptibility of oxidation through the action of the air, in the case of gold, insolubility in acids except in aqua regia. All these natural properties make the precious metals the natural material for hoarding. Peter Martyr, who seems to have been a great lover of chocolate, remarks therefore of the cacao bags which formed a species of Mexican gold: O felicem monetam quae suavent utilemque praebit humano generi potum eta tartaria peste avaritiae suos emenis servat possessoris quod suffodi aut diu servari nequiat. Footnote: De orba novo. O happy coin, which furnishes mankind with a pleasant and useful beverage, and keeps its possessors immune from the hell-born pest of avarice, since it cannot be either buried or preserved long. End of footnote. The great importance of metals in general in the direct process of production is due to the part they play as instruments of production. Apart from their scarcity, the great softness of gold and silver, as compared with iron and even copper, in the hardened state in which it was used by the ancients, makes them unfit for that application, and deprives them, therefore, to a great extent, of that property on which the use-value of metals is generally based. Uses as they are in the direct process of production, they are easily dispensed with as means of existence, as articles of consumption. For that reason, any desired quantity of them may be absorbed by the social process of circulation without disturbing the processes of direct production and consumption. Their individual use-value does not come in conflict with their economic function. Furthermore, gold and silver are not only negatively superfluous, that is, dispensable articles, but their aesthetic properties make them the natural material of luxury, ornamentation, splendor, festive occasions, in short, the positive form of abundance and wealth. They appear in a way as spontaneous light brought out from the underground world, since silver reflects all rays of light in their original combination, and gold only the color of highest intensity, viz., red light. The sensation of color is, generally speaking, the most popular form of aesthetic sense. The etymological connection between the names of the precious metals and the relations of colors in the different Indo-Germanic languages has been established by Jacob Grimm. See his History of the German Language. Finally, the susceptibility of gold and silver of being turned from coin into bullion, from bullion into articles of luxury, and vice versa, that is, the advantage they possess as against other commodities in not being tied down to a definite exclusive form in which they can be used, makes them the natural material of money, which must constantly change from one form to another. Nature no more produces money than it does bankers or discount rates, but since the capitalist system of production requires the crystallization of wealth as a fetish in the form of a single article, gold and silver appear as its appropriate incarnation. Gold and silver are not money by nature, but money is by nature gold and silver. In the first place, the silver or gold money crystal is not only the product of the process of circulation, but in fact its only final product. In the second place, gold and silver are ready and direct products of nature, not distinguished by any difference of form, the universal product of the social process, or the social process itself as a product is a peculiar natural product, a metal hidden in the bowels of the earth and extracted therefrom. Footnote: in 760, a multitude of poor people emigrated to the south of Prague to wash the gold sand found there, and 3 men were able to extract 3 marks of gold a day. As a result of that, the run on the diggings and the number of hands taken away from agriculture became so great that the country was visited by a famine the following year. See M. G. Kerner, Abhandlung von dem Altertum des Böhmischen Bergwerks, Schneeberg, 1758. End of footnote. We have seen that gold and silver are unable to fulfill the requirements which they are expected to meet in their capacity of money, viz., to remain values of unvarying magnitude. Still, as Aristotle had already observed, they possess a more constant value than the average of other commodities, apart from the universal effect of an appreciation or depreciation of the precious metals. The fluctuations in the ratio between the values of gold and silver has a special importance, since both serve side by side in the world market as money material. The purely economic causes of this change of value must be traced to the change in the labor time required for the production of these metals. Conquests and other political upheavals, which exercised a great influence on the value of metals in the ancient world, have nowadays only a local and transitory effect. The labor time required for the production of the metals will depend on the degree of their natural scarcity, as well as on the greater or less difficulty with which they can be obtained in a purely metallic state. As a matter of fact, gold is the first metal discovered by man. This is due to the fact that nature itself furnishes it partly in pure crystalline form, individualized, free from chemical combination with other substances, or, as the alchemists used to say, in a virgin state. And so far as it does not appear in that state, nature does the technical work in the great gold washeries of rivers. Only the crudest kind of labor is thus required of man in the extraction of gold, either from rivers or from alluvial deposits, while the extraction of silver presupposes the development of mining and a comparatively high degree of technical skill generally. For that reason, the value of silver is originally greater than that of gold, in spite of the lesser absolute scarcity of the former. Strabo's assertion that a certain Arabian tribe gave 10 pounds of gold for 1 pound of iron and 2 pounds of gold for 1 pound of silver seems by no means incredible, but as the productive powers of labor in society are developed and the product of unskilled labor rises in value as compared with the product of skilled labor, as the earth's crust is more thoroughly broken up and the original superficial sources of gold supply give out, the value of silver begins to fall in proportion to that of gold. At a given stage of development of engineering and of the means of communication, the discovery of new gold or silver fields become the decisive factor. In ancient Asia, the ratio of gold to silver was 6-1 or 8-1. The latter ratio prevailed in China and Japan as late as the beginning of the 19th century. 10-1, the ratio of Xenophon's time, may be considered as the average ratio of the middle period of antiquity. The exploitation of the Spanish silver mines by Carthage and later by Rome had about the same effect in antiquity as the discovery of the American mines in modern Europe. For the period of the Roman Empire, 15 or 16-1 may be assumed as a rough average, although we frequently find cases of still greater depreciation of silver in Rome. The same movement, beginning with the relative depreciation of gold and concluding with the fall in the value of silver, is repeated in the following epoch, which has lasted from the Middle Ages to the present time. As in Xenophon's times, the average ratio in the Middle Ages was 10-1, changing to 16 or 15-1 in consequence of the discovery of the American mines. The discovery of the Australian, Californian, and Colombian gold sources makes a new fall in the value of gold probable. Footnote: so far, the Australian and other discoveries have not affected the ratio of the values of gold and silver. The assertions to the contrary of Michel Chevalier are worth as much as the socialism of this ex-Saint Simonist. The quotations of silver on the London market prove, however, that the average gold price of silver during 1850 to 1858 is not quite 3% higher than the price during 1830 to 1850, but this rise in price is accounted for simply by the Asiatic demand for silver. In the course of the years 1852 to 1858, the price of silver was changing in certain years and months only with a change in this demand, and in no case with the importation of gold from the newly discovered sources. The following is a summary of the gold prices of silver on the London market. Price of silver per ounce. Year 1852, March 16 1/8 pence, July 60 1/4 pence, November 61 7/8 pence. Year 1853, March 61 3/8 pence, July 61 1/2 pence, November 61 7/8 pence. Year 1854, March 61 7/8 pence, July 61 3/4 pence, November 61 1/2 pence. Year 1855, March 60 7/8 pence, July 61 1/2 pence, November 60 7/8 pence. 1856, March 60 pence, July 61 1/4 pence, November 62 1/8 pence. Year 1857, March 61 3/4 pence, July 61 5/8 pence, November 61 1/2 pence. 1858, March 61 5/8 pence. End of footnote. End of chapter 2, part 4.